One of the things that we love about Star Wars is taking the things that we do know and wondering about the things that we don't. We've spent so much time theorizing and hypothesizing over Star Wars, and I'm sure that we always will. I remember going home after watching Star Wars Revenge of the Sith on opening day. I popped in my old Star Wars VHS, rewatched a scene that I had viewed hundreds, if not thousands of times by then. The confrontation between old Ben Kenobi and Darth Vader had much more meaning all of a sudden, more than I had ever imagined. In today's episode, here on Echo Base Network, we're going to focus on a special friendship, one that, as I look at the two, makes me smile. This friendship is between none other than Anakin Skywalker, who became Darth Vader, and his droid, R2-D2. When we first saw Star Wars in 1977, or for those of us who aren't quite old enough and would see it later during childhood, it was explained to us that both R2-D2 and C-3PO were in the service of Master Antilles, but the prequels would change the things that we knew about the droids and many of our favorite characters.
What is its number?
R2-D2, Your Highness.
R2-D2 began his service with Queen Amidala of the Naboo. Over the next few years, R2 would eventually be placed with Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker during the last few years of the Galactic Republic. This is the relationship that we want to focus on today. We find out so much about the depths of this friendship in the Clone Wars Season 1 episodes, Downfall of a Droid and then Duel of the Droids. In Episode 6, Downfall of the Droid, Anakin was on a mission with R2 in his Jedi Starfighter. Anakin, taking a direct hit, was injured and unconscious. Later in the episode, he is seen recovering and being awakened by Ahsoka and Rex.
Where's R2?
I'm sorry, Master. He's gone.
Anakin was obviously distraught by losing R2, and even had somewhat of an argument with his superior and master, Obi-Wan Kenobi. After Anakin explained to Obi-Wan that R2's memory had not been wiped yet, they were afraid of him falling into the hands of Grievous. Kenobi ordered Anakin to go after R2-D2. Anakin and Ahsoka went to the battle site, and R2 was not in the ship. Noticing a nearby scavenger ship, Anakin wanted to investigate and see if the droid was on board.
I know you're fond of that droid, but he's fallen into enemy hands.
I could rescue R2.
No, this is not a rescue mission.
Keep jamming their scanners.
Though R2 was indeed on the ship, he was hidden by the droid smuggler. Anakin would not stop trying to find his friend. The smuggler was on his way to deliver R2 to Grievous. Ahsoka and Anakin hear a transmission and plainly can tell the sound of an R2 unit. Ahsoka didn't believe that it sounded like R2, but Anakin knew that it was. Anakin and R2 would finally find one another. At the conclusion of the episode, Anakin was told by Obi-Wan that he disapproved of his decision to go rescue the droid. After that conversation, and Ahsoka agreeing with Obi-Wan, Anakin explained to Ahsoka why he chose the actions that he did.
I'm glad we got R2 back, Master, but Obi-Wan does have a point.
Ahsoka, I knew you would complete the mission. Besides, R2 is more than a droid. He's a friend.
Now, interestingly enough, Anakin is seen time and time again having an issue with attachments, and we know how that is going to end up. After rewatching this episode, I started thinking through the original trilogy. How many times did Darth Vader actually see his old friend R2? It's possible that Vader saw R2 right after striking down his former master in the Death Star hangar bay. The two were near each other on Princess Leia's Tantive 4 at the opening of Star Wars. Who knew back then that the black-cloaked and masked menace would be best friends with the short, dumpy droid who was hiding with the beautiful princess? Another time the two were nearby, the Battle of Yavin. Interestingly enough, it was Vader, while attempting to shoot down the X-Wing in the Death Star trench, missing and hitting the droid. None of us realized that this was Vader missing and accidentally hitting his old friend. Another time the two was nearby was on Cloud City. We were able to get some insight into Darth Vader in the original Marvel comic from The Empire Strikes Back. Here, Vader is shown the head of his former droid C-3PO. You could see his passionate reaction. You could see the conflict. In the new Disney canon comic, Book 1, Part 2 of the Marvel Star Wars serial, Darth Vader and R2 are on Moon 1. R2 was actually inside an Imperial AT-AT that was attempting to stomp on the Dark Lord of the Sith. In all of these cases, they were never actually able to speak to one another. Now, did R2 ever know that Vader was indeed his former master? At this time, we don't know. One popular theory is that R2 does not know that the two are one and the same. When they were last together on Mustafar, and R2 had indeed seen Anakin acting much differently and out of character, R2 was not able to witness Anakin's and Obi-Wan's duel. R2 would presumably leave with the knowledge that his former master was dead. It makes me wonder what it would have been like for Darth Vader to have spoken to R2, for R2 to realize that this was indeed his old friend and master, to see the conflict within Vader, if he had any conflict. I, for one, would like to think that the conflict would be present, though one could argue that he certainly didn't have the conflict when fighting against Obi-Wan. Maybe one day we'll be lucky enough to see an Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost appearance with an old friend like R2-D2 in the room. Such a thought makes me smile. Thank you all very much for coming to Echo Base Network today. As we always say at the conclusion of our videos and live shows, we are, you are. Echo Base Network, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you guys on the next one.